Deconverted Man here. So Reece Morrell, who doesn't even have any videos, but their Google Plus profile will be down in the description box, asked if I would do a video about them. I'm like, there's nothing to do a video about. Give me an argument, give me something. So they wrote a bunch of their ideas, and I thought I would analyze them for them as well as you. So idea 1 is everyone by default is an atheist. So this idea has actually been debated, both by atheists and by theists. I've heard atheists say yes, and I've heard them say no. I've heard theists say no, but and I don't know if I've ever heard a theist say yes, but that's possible that happened. I just didn't ever hear that. Why does anyone debate about that? Well, it's probably natural language problems. So let's look at the word. Theism comes from the Greek word theos, meaning God. In Latin, the letter, or well, actually word, a, means without. So therefore, atheism is without God. So unless we add human somewhere in there, rocks, trees, animals, this cup, are all atheists, because that would be the definition. Anything that is without God would be an atheist. So we assume and presume that the word is only being applied to humans, not being applied to anything else. Even something that can speak, like Coco is a very intelligent creature that can communicate, but the concept of God just it would not register in the brain of Coco. The fact that there are brains outside of its own brain is not something that Coco understands. It's stuck at that level, so it just doesn't have the cognitive power to do this. So we assume only humans. Okay, so what about that cute little baby? Well, first of all, it's not a blank slate, because it's coming prepackaged with every single genetics issues or benefits that their parents have. Also, whatever the mother ate, drank, breathed in, got stressed out about, etc., all the things during pregnancy can affect the fetus and affect the eventual baby that's born. So there are a lot of factors already in that baby, so I wouldn't really see that we could call it a blank slate, but it's darn close, I suppose. Well, it has thoughts, but does it have cognitive ability, or is it just instinct? Hard to say. There might be some tests to show us one way or another, but if it doesn't have cognitive ability to understand the concept of God, then it's without God, so it's an atheist, right? Well, maybe, but some people would argue that until it has cognitive ability, it can't be anything. It can't be an atheist, it can't be a theist, it just exists. So now it has cognitive ability. Let's just skip ahead to when it's a toddler or a young kid or whatever, and it has cognitive ability. And what happens then to that child if we don't teach it about God? Is it an atheist? Technically, yes. But again, some people might not be too pleased with that. They might say, well, no, not until they learn about different gods can they really be considered an atheist, because they're not without God, because they don't even know what a god is. So how can they be without it yet? Right? So somebody somewhere, excuse me, might make that argument. I wouldn't, but nonetheless, are they an atheist if we don't teach them about God? On a technical level, you're right in that we're all born atheists, but on a different level, you're not correct. bleep. So we have to ask, do we have a logically coherent argument for or against this idea? And as far as I'm aware, the answer is no. So we have to be skeptical. You didn't provide any argument for your idea. It's just an idea, and that's all it is. And I can't agree without any data, without any tests, without an argument. So I just have to be skeptical about it. And I just don't know if all humans are born atheists or as blank slates. And that will be my personal position on the matter until somebody produces a logically coherent argument one way or the other on the matter. You can decide to keep your own views, since technically, by the very definition of the word, that would be correct, and I see no reason to debate you myself about it. But I think you should come up with a logically coherent argument for it if you want people to accept your idea, because otherwise they'll just be skeptical. I'm skeptical of it. It's like, no, not really. Technically, yeah, but also no. So I get to be kind of in between and seem maybe wishy-washy, but sometimes being skeptical is kind of hard because you're like, no and yes. Okay, so idea 2. A theist can be an atheist because you just have to disbelieve in one God, and you can lack God in other ways, but that just goes into more of a subjective realm. So, by definition, again, atheist is without God. The theist is an atheist in regards to Zeus, perhaps. They might be agnostic about Shiva the Destroyer, and they might think that Allah simply doesn't exist. We can't know unless we ask them. So this is a potential straw man. So, yes, a theist could be an atheist in regards to some or all of their gods, but they might not consider that to be the term that they would want to use. So let's ask them rather than assume we know what they think on that issue. We don't want to even potentially straw man them. I have heard the phrase, you're an atheist in regards to all other gods except for yours. I just take it one step further. I don't know that I agree completely with that. I mean, I don't know their brain. I don't know their thinking. So I'm creating a straw man. Instead, why not ask them, do you believe in all these other deities, or do you disbelieve in them? What is your stance on all these other deities, the 10,000 plus deities that are out there, and find out their answer. That way I don't make a logical fallacy, and that way you don't either. Idea 3, most atheists online are better off being called anti-theists like myself. There's a couple of logical fallacies in this idea. My questions would be, how do you know that? Where's your data to show that? What do you mean by better off? How are they better off? In what way? So this is an appeal to emotion and an appeal to minority, the minority of self. Everybody would be better if they just called themselves anti-theists, because I do it. It's not a logically sound statement. So provide the data that makes your case, or stop saying this sentence that you just said because it's not logically valid. Idea 4, free will doesn't exist. I'm talking about absolute free will. Everything that happens in your mind via chemical and electrical impulses. Do you dictate those impulses, or do they dictate you? Obviously, it's a rhetorical question. Where's your data on this? What peer-reviewed papers can you cite to prove this point? And a rhetorical question should not be used if you're trying to persuade somebody, because it's a logical fallacy. It's begging the question. In short, don't ask me a question you don't want me to answer. If you have no research or data on this, then it's just your idea, and I would tell you to produce the research or add the words, I believe there is no free will. That way you don't have to make an argument, because it's a belief statement. Idea 5. Fate exists. It exists via deterministic chaos theory, and then a link to a web page that I have not visited. My question here is how? Show correlation and causation. Point to peer-reviewed papers on the subject. One website is not enough, and honestly, forget that one website. I just want peer-reviewed scientific studies on chaos theory and how they link to fate and or deterministic things happening, and how all that ties into this, that we don't, fate exists. Make your case, present the papers, and show correlation and causation. Without any of that, I have to be skeptical of that idea completely. Idea 6. One of the holy grail of atheism, ... is there meaning to life without God/gods? Ladies and gentlemen, I have the law of complexity consciousness. You can have this law with or without divine being, and then a link to a wiki article. I'll put those links, all his links or her links, down there in the description box. Sorry though, a wiki isn't good enough for this classroom. Try again. What do you mean by meaning? There's biological meaning. That's to reproduce. And that's it as far as objective ideas go. I need an argument here. Cite papers on the subject. Use Google Scholar, not Wikipedia, to get your data. Try harder. Until you have a logically coherent argument, I'm going to have to be skeptical on this issue. My answer, that could be completely wrong, because it's my answer and I have no argument, is you forge your own meaning, your own destiny, you decide. Of course, I could be wrong, and you shouldn't think that I'm right, and I have no idea. I need a logically coherent argument for and or against free will to decide the matter, and even more important, I need the science on it, because that will have the data that says yes or no to that question. And it might not be a black and white. There might be a bazillion shades of gray, that we have some free will but not as much as we thought, or something like that. That's it. That's my analysis of your ideas. You had a number of logical problems and a lack of arguments in general, so this is what I would suggest. Make an essay on these ideas and do a ton of research on it, or just pick one, because it's easier to focus on one idea rather than all of them, and put that essay, on the web somewhere, on a blog or Google Docs, but share it with people. Let people know that it exists. Let people know that it's out there. Put it on Facebook or whatever. Essays are typically easier to make than logical syllogism, because you get to reference quotes, you get to reference stuff, and it's a different format. It's less, I don't want to say less precise format, but it's just a different format. But if you do want to make a logical syllogism, by all means, go ahead and I'll analyze it and tell you how wrong you got your logic, if you got your logic wrong. So, I want to ask my viewers, is this something enjoyable? Do you want me to analyze ideas that people present, or do you just want me to stick with the video stuff? I spent a lot of time before coming to Deconverted Man on the web doing text debates, and I don't want to say I have a low opinion of text warriors. I mean, there is a need for text warriors, okay? Don't get me wrong. Some of my subscribers are not just YouTubers, but also text warriors, and many of them are just text warriors. I don't have a problem with that. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I just prefer the video format at this time. I feel like I'd be going backwards by going back into text debates. I wouldn't necessarily say no to it if I thought it was important enough, but that, I don't know. But if you guys and gals out there are like, yeah, I want you to analyze these ideas, okay, I'll take a look. and I might say no, but I might say yes. I prefer to do videos because in that way I can have a logical fallacy counter, I can react to the video and all that. If you're going to submit a video for me to analyze, I do have a kind of rule that I want it to be recent, like within the last 5 months at the very least, or a video that's gotten a lot of hits, even if it's old, but it just has super giant amount of hits. Also, don't send me like an hour long or 2 hour long videos. I was looking at one that was like an hour plus long where it's just pre-sup, and it's like, I already did that. I'm not going to do that again. It's too much. Because it would have to be such a long series to basically say it's a circular argument. The end. But anyways, if you want to send me links to videos for me to analyze, that would certainly help me, because I have to hunt for them on my own, usually. And I'm fine with doing that. I gotta get back to making Carm Harm 2. It's so painful to make, though. Anyways, remember, unless and until we have a logically coherent argument, we must continue to be skeptical of the conclusions.